Hi guys, welcome to this video tutorial on creating an image gallery in ASP.NET Core 2.1. In the last video tutorial, we finished coding the image slider using the Swiper API. In this video tutorial, we will learn the feature how we can delete a slider from our database as well as any images that we uploaded related to that specific gallery also gets deleted. For example, if I had to delete this gallery whose ID is 1011, we will delete the information from our database, but also then we will make sure that on a server in the gallery folder in uploads, we also delete the folder 1011 as well, which contains all the images associated with this gallery. That's because we want to first save the resources on a server, that's the space, because buying web space is expensive, so you don't want to keep unnecessary files and back them up on your server. Second, it's a good habit to get rid of the files associated with something that you don't want on your server. So let's go ahead and code the functionality to delete this slider or our gallery. Also guys, I have used some basic CSS styling to style my gallery and my image slider, my uploader and my slider. And the code was added to the style.css file, which is saved in our custom folder. It's basic styling. I have just imported some Google fonts and I have added some basic styling. You can go ahead, pause the video at this point and type this code out in your file, or you can add your own styling as ever you wish to do it in your project. Now let's go ahead and create our delete functionality. And to create our delete functionality, we have to write a method in our gallery controller, which will be used to delete our gallery. So let's do that. Now to delete the gallery and the image files, we would need to add two methods. The first method is our HTTP delete method. This method will be called when the delete button is clicked from the front end. That's our HTML browser. The second method is the delete directory method. We will use this method to delete the folder, the gallery folder, and any files within that gallery folder. So now let's go ahead and code these two methods. Once I am done coding, I will explain the code to you. So the methods have been created. Now let's explain to you how these methods work. So in our front end, when a user or our client clicks on the delete button, the delete gallery method will be called. And the ID of the gallery that they want to delete will be passed from the route to the parameters of this method. First thing, we always check if the model state is valid, and if it's not valid, we return a bad request. The next step is we find the gallery by its ID that you want to delete. Therefore, we create a variable called as find gallery, and then using our entities, we find the ID by find the gallery by its ID. The next thing, if the result of finding the gallery returned as null, which means there was no gallery, then we return an HTTP not found response to our client. And if the ID was found, we found a gallery with a specific ID, then what we do is we go ahead and remove it. Using the dependency injection, we call the entity and then call the remove function. Now the gallery from the database will be deleted, but the next thing that we also want to make sure is to delete the gallery folder itself along with the images. So we call the delete gallery directory method and pass the ID of the gallery that we want to delete. The reason we pass the ID because the ID of the gallery is the name of the folder as well. Therefore, we will pass it as a parameter to this method. I wrote this method separately and I used the private keyword because we want only this class to access this method. It's a void method because it doesn't return anything. It just performs a function for us. And the function is to delete a gallery with the ID provided. First thing that we want to do is we want to get the path of the gallery that we want to delete. And for that, we will have to get the environment's webroot path and then the path of the gallery folder that we want to delete. So I just copy pasted the same code from my HTTP post method to get the gallery path in my delete gallery directory method. The next thing I want to do is I want to store all the files within that gallery I want to delete into an array. Now you have to remember one thing. When you want to delete a folder in C# or in .NET, you have to make sure you first delete all the files within that folder, because if we try to delete the folder with the files existing in that folder, you will get an error saying that the folder is not empty. Therefore, first thing what we did here is we checked if the directory with that specific ID name exists in that gallery path. So if it exists, then we ran a for each loop on all the files within that gallery. The next thing that we want to do is we want to run the set attributes method on the file. What is this set attributes method? The set attributes method will change the permission of the files that you have in that gallery to normal, which means if the files are only read only and they cannot be deleted, then first thing it will do is change the permission to normal so that it can be deleted. And the next thing, we will go ahead and delete the files. After each file has been deleted, finally we go ahead and then delete the directory of that gallery. And that should be it for our delete gallery method. So now the next thing that we want to do is create that delete button that will invoke this method for us, the delete method. And to create the delete button in the front end, we will do it in our index.cs HTML file. So let's go ahead and do that. So the first thing that you want to do is go ahead and run your application, and then when we edit our HTML, we would be able to see what's happening in the front end. So now what we're going to do here is we want to create a delete button. So we are going to append that delete button onto our selection drop down just somewhere about here. So let's go ahead and do that. We are going to use Bootstrap once again. So if you are not familiar with Bootstrap, please visit the Bootstrap's official website and you can get lots of information on Bootstrap classes. So I'm just going to quickly type the code. So all I have done is I have added a div with a class of input group append, and then I have added a button within that div with a class of btn danger, and I have added a font awesome icon to it, as well as I have attached an on-click event with the method delete gallery. We have to now go ahead and code this method in our custom JS. So we have not yet coded it, so don't worry, I will teach you how to do that. Now let's save this and then open our browser and check what we have in our browser. So let's just refresh this, and the application, as you see now, we have a delete button here. So anytime any gallery is selected and if we want to delete that specific gallery, we will get the ID from the options value and then we will delete it. So now let's go ahead and write the delete gallery method in our custom.js file. So what we are going to do here is we are going to get the ID from the selected option. So the selected option, the ID for our select element is selected image gallery. So we are going to use jQuery, and then we are going to target the ID of our select element. And then what we want to do is we want to get the value of the selected option and store it to this variable ID. The next step that we want to do is before we delete a gallery, it's a good thing to ask your client that are they sure they want to delete that gallery. In that case, what would we do? So we will go ahead and add a Bootstrap model that will confirm from our client if they want to proceed with the deletion of a gallery. And if you are not familiar with Bootstrap model, go to Bootstrap's official website, get bootstrap.com, and then you will see examples of model. Model is like a pop-up. It's a pop-up box that has some text on it. You can design it as ever you want. But look at this example. You have a model here. When you click on a specific button like this, it will launch a model. And here, the same thing we are going to do in our project. We will ask the user if they want to delete this particular gallery, and if they say yes, then we will proceed with the deletion. If they say no, we will close the model. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do that. Now to add the model, we have to add the model code in our index.cshtml file. So let's go ahead and add our model code. I have already written the code, so I'm just going to copy paste it. Don't worry, you can find this code on my blog, because all the code that I have used for this project is freely available on my blog. So all you want to do is add the model code just at the bottom of your code, and then save your HTML file. And now in this model, all we have given the model an ID of delete gallery model. And in order to target this model, we can use the ID. So let's go to our custom.js, and here let's target the model. When the delete gallery method is called, we will target the model with its ID. And the first thing that we want to do is we want to show the model. So we will call the models show event. So let's show, and then the model will appear. Let's go ahead and test this in our front end. So all the methods for model are provided on Get's Bootstrap. You can go ahead and you can review and use whichever methods you like as per your needs. So I'm not going to get into detail of how model works and what is model. So now when we click the delete button, we should be able to see a model. So let's look at this. Yeah, we see a model. It's empty because we have not yet further coded it. Okay, so now let's go ahead and further code this model. The next thing that we want to do is in our model, we want to edit the model title, and we also want to show a confirmation text asking the user if they really want to delete their gallery. So let's do that. So the model's title, we will enter some HTML like delete confirmation. And for the model's body, we will add some HTML where we'll ask the user if they want to delete the gallery ID. So we have concatenated some HTML code using JavaScript. So when I save this, now let me go ahead and once again refresh my gallery and test it. So if I had to select the ID of 2007, select it. As you see, the delete confirmation, that's the title, and the body, do you want to delete, and the ID and the gallery. So the code is very simple and very basic. If the user clicks yes, then we will invoke another method which will delete the gallery. And if the user clicks no, obviously it will close the model. So now let's go ahead and do that. So when the user clicks yes in our model, we are going to attach an on-click event, and we'll call it confirm delete gallery. So we will code this method here in our custom.js file. So we will call this function as confirm delete, and then we can write our code here what we want to do. So in our case, we want to go ahead and delete the gallery. So let's do that. So this is the code that we are going to use. I've created a variable called as idgl, which is the ID gallery. And then we want to store the text of our ID, span ID tags value text, that is ID, into this variable. By doing this, we will have access to the value of the ID that the user wants to delete. Okay. The next thing that we want to do is handle a deletion here using Ajax. So we have created an empty array of Ajax options, and then we have added our options to that, like URL type, data type, and success. What happens when the request was a success? We will run a callback function where the gallery model first will be hidden, and then we will alert the user that the gallery was deleted. If it's an error, we will make sure we send a response and alert saying the gallery could not be deleted. Finally, we will call our Ajax method from jQuery and submit all these options. Now, finally, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and test our code to see everything works. So what I'm going to do is rebuild everything and run this. So now we can test our code for delete functionality. I have my database, that's Azure Data Studio open, which contains my database. It's a GUI where I can access my database. And I have the folder for my gallery open as well in another window, and have my browser where I'm going to test it. So now let's go ahead and test it. We will create a sample gallery. So we'll create upload method. So we are going to select some images. Okay, so let's put some sample image captions. And as again, the delete functionality also works. We can check that. The counter also works. Now we're just going to submit our gallery. We're going to hit submit. We're going to get a success response that the gallery is added. And then now if we see, we have a new gallery with 3018 added in our dropdown, as well as we have a new folder with all the images that we uploaded called as 3018. Run the database. We have 3018 gallery created with its path as well. Now what we want to do is check the delete functionality. First thing we will do, let me just maximize this, is open the gallery 3018 by clicking on it. Gallery is open with all the images. Now what we want to do is delete this 3018 gallery. So let's click on delete. Do you want to delete 3018 gallery? We say yes. And then the gallery will be deleted. Pay attention to this folder here because it's also going to be deleted as well as our database also is going to be updated. So let's click this, yes. As you see, 3018 was also deleted from our server. We got a success response. Now let's check on the server if 3018 exists. But before that, let's check if any images exist. No, because it's deleted already. Now let's go check 3018. It also has been deleted. So guys, we have finally completed the delete functionality using Ajax, jQuery, and ASP.NET Core Web API 2.1. If you have any questions, please let me know. This code will be available on my blog, and please like and subscribe my channel to keep this content coming on this channel. Thank you so much. Have a good day. In the next video tutorial, we will look at the edit functionality, and that would be probably the final phase of our video tutorial. Thank you so much. Hi guys, this is Tech Howdy. I welcome you to this video tutorial on creating an image gallery in ASP.NET Core 2.1. In the last video tutorial, we finished creating half of image slider code, and in this video tutorial, we will finish coding the image slider. Now, for the image slider, before I go ahead and start coding, I will like to tell you that we are going to make use of an API called as Swiper.js. Yes, we will use this API Swiper.js in order to create our image slider. It's a very beautifully coded JavaScript library with lots of effects that we can use to create different kind of image sliders or image galleries. It's completely open source, so you don't have to pay for it. And you can also look at the demos. I will put the link in the video description to download the necessary files from Swiper, but have a look at the demos as well. Different demos for sliders, different kinds of sliders that you can create, and you can use it in your project. You can also use the traditional method of creating sliders, that is from the data that you receive from your database. You can go ahead and write some jQuery code to create an image slider. But I will recommend you to use an API like this, which is already written and which comes with lots of features. You can create different kind of slides by just modifying few lines of code in the API. So we will make use of this. In this tutorial though, I will be creating the basic slider using Swiper API, the navigation one. But you can choose any one you like and you can create it. So now let's go ahead and start coding our method, because now we want to load our slider from the gallery ID that we received. So let's write that method. Function to create image slider, and that function will be, we will be using Ajax in this function so that the slider is loaded without the page refresh. Okay, so let's do that. Function load slider. And when do you want to call this method? Every time when the selected option is changed. So let's go to our index.html and add an onChange event to the select option here, select element, and then I'm going to add an onChange event and going to call the load slider method and pass the value of the selected option to this method. Okay, now let's code this method. So we are going to write few lines of Ajax over here. So we're going to use the Ajax function. So we want to specify the type, which is get, and the URL, which is going to be our API /gallery/. Since we are going to call the controller method, which is going to get the image gallery with its ID, we have to specify the ID. So in that case, we will concatenate the ID, which is the value which is going to be passed to the parameter of our load slider method. So let's concatenate that there. And then what we want to do is specify the data type. The data type will be JSON. And when the request is a success, we want to run a function. And in the function, the data that we received, we want to make use of that data. Now, before I code this method further, I wanted to show you something. So let me just alert the data that was received from our API call, which is basically the image gallery with that specific ID. I'm just going to alert that. Okay, let me just go ahead and run this code. Now look at this. When I select the option, it should get me the ID with gallery 11 should be alerted. So let's look at this. Now see here, what you get is an object array. That's because when the data that is being sent, it is one package, it's a collection. We need to break it down. So our response is one result. It's not chunks of results that we are receiving, like, because we are going to receive multiple images in that information about multiple images in that result. But when the data is being sent to the browser or to the client, it is being sent as one package. So we want to now make sure that we break that package down into key value pairs so that we can use it in our code. And to do that, in jQuery we have a method called as each. We can run the each method and we can then make use of the value. So first we need to specify in the each, the first parameter is what is the object, that's the data object there, which is a collection of all images. And then when we receive, we pass the data, then we run a callback function, and in the callback function we will specify two parameters, the key and the value. And now what is going to happen for each object, it's going to store the result as key value pair. So let me just alert the value now and show you something. So let's look at this. I'm still receiving an object, and to fix this, all I have to do, since I have three objects, three images, it will alert me 3 times. Now what I have to do here is, all I want to do is value dot gallery underscore id. Now let's alert this. Refresh. Now let's select and alert. See that? See the id. I have three images with id gallery id 11, so it will be alerted 3 times. And if you go to the inspect tab and you go to your network and then you call this method, refresh this, and then you look at your gallery object. Now when I call this gallery id, all the images related to gallery 11 will be displayed. So now look at this. So the key was, now it ran a loop on our object that was received, and then it separated all the object as key value pair, basically alerted the value for that particular property. So if I had to change this to gallery underscore title, let's do that here. So if I change this to gallery underscore title, save this, I should get the value of gallery underscore title for all these three objects. So let's refresh this, select the 11, see image gallery, image gallery, image gallery. So now what we are going to do is, now these key value pairs, we are going to send it to the API, that is Swiper, and create an image gallery. So let's do that. So to use Swiper's API, we need to reference few files, and we'll get the reference links from Swiper. If you just click on the Get Started option, you can also install the package using the package manager like npm, but for now we don't have it available under libmin. So I'm just going to reference the CD and links for the CSS and JavaScript libraries. So let's do that. Just copy the CSS link and go to your shared layout file, paste it under CSS, and we have to make sure that we change the version of the CSS file to the actual Swiper version, which is 4.4.5. Also, we will reference the JavaScript, and I'm using the minified version of the files. So I'm going to add it under my JavaScript just before my custom JS. That should be it. And now we can use Swiper in our project. So now we have a layout file set up. So let's go to our index.html and start coding our Bootstrap code. We will create the code necessary for loading our Swiper API slider. So let's do that. So we have added a row just below the row that was existing, which just loaded our drop down option. And then within this new row, we have created two classes. One class with the class name of swiper-container. That's how we will name the container class that will hold our Swiper slider, because that's the recommendation by Swiper. If you go to Swiper demos, if you click on Swiper demos and then you look at the source code for each of the sliders, they have clearly mentioned how you can create a slider and what class name you should use when creating the slider containers. So it's not something that I created. I'm just following the API's code that's needed to create the slider. So within the Swiper container, we need to create a class called as Swiper-wrapper. which will hold all the slides in this particular div. Since our slides are going to be created dynamically using jQuery, we are not going to add the code here, but we are going to write the code here in our load slider method to dynamically create our slides. So let's do that. Get rid of this alert method, and just before looping in and creating each slides dynamically, we want to make sure that if there are any slides existing in the wrapper, first we get rid of them. So let's add the code here. So let's copy this class name and use jQuery .html and then empty the class before we empty the div before we add new slides. Now let's add the code to create our slider divs dynamically. So let's do that. So the code to add slides dynamically into our swiper.wrapper div is completed. So we use some jQuery and we are appending our slides, and then for the source we are adding the value dot image underscore path of the image. Now the next thing that we want to do is initialize swiper, and to initialize swiper for our pagination slider, as I told you, the code is provided by sliders, so we can just copy the code from their GitHub repository. So let's do that. So to initialize swiper, we can just copy this code here, and then we can paste it just after our jQuery each method. After the images have been loaded in the div, then we will initialize our swiper. So the next thing that we want to do is add our pagination and previous and next buttons as shown in the demo, and we can add it here just under our swiper-wrapper div, and that should be it. Now we can just load our project and test our image slider. So I don't have any IDs yet because I deleted all my test IDs. And now let's go ahead and create some galleries. So I've created two galleries, and now we will load them using Swiper. So we should have two options here to load two galleries. So let's load the first gallery by clicking on it. And as you see, Swiper has loaded the gallery for our car image. And at the bottom, you can see the image caption. You can use CSS styles to style your slider, but as that is not part of this video tutorial series, I'm not going to teach you CSS. So let's load the next slider. When we switch it to the next slider image loads, so that works as well. So that should be it for this video tutorial. In the next video tutorial, we will learn how we can delete the gallery from our database. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.